Welcome to Alpha Wolf Capital. I'm Tim, and I want to personally thank you for stopping by. Between the OTC, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ, there are over 22,000 companies traded publicly. I feel that small businesses are the backbone of America. This channel is designed to help small companies, both public and private, gain exposure with potential consumers, investors, even partners. Take, for example, today's guest, CTO Louis Succi with Prostar Holdings. Prostar has a software as a service. Their flagship product is PointMan, which helps identify, capture, record, and upload to the cloud the precise location of our underground utilities within centimeter accuracy off of any mobile device. It's important to understand that I do not collect compensation for the interviews I do here. The purpose of this channel is to find companies that have identified big problems and have found solutions to those problems. There's a thing called impact investing. It's tied to environmental, social, and governance. There are a lot of companies out there attacking very big problems, and I believe that you and I can help them in more ways than one. By helping a small company become a large corporation, if you and I can become ambassadors of a product because the values of that company align with our own, think of all the jobs that will be created as that small company becomes a big company. Think about the community that that company is in. Typically, they thrive along with the company. This channel is to help companies that are relatively unknown become known so that they can build a following and they can have brand ambassadors that share their vision, share their mission, and are willing to do what they can to help have a positive impact on humanity. That's what this channel is all about. Folks, here is my plea. If you like the interviews that I do here, if you believe the companies could do things that make the world a better place for all of humanity, I'm asking you to join me. I believe that together we can make a difference, and we need all the help we can get. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I recommend highly that before buying any security, you speak to a financial advisor and do your own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Capital coming at you with this is a follow-up, but this is the first time I've had the opportunity to speak with Louis from Prostar. Louis, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Louis, can you give me a little bit of a background on you and how you wound up showing up at Prostar? First of all, what's your position at?
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to start with I'm currently the CTO at Prostar.
Okay, all right. So, how did you wind up here?
Sure. So I started my career as a software engineer and moved into kind of architecture. Initially did some stuff in higher education, helping build some platforms to allow students to go to class online virtually. Did that for about 10 years or so. Moved on from that into the cybersecurity space, where I ran engineering for a company called Prolexic. We built a denial of service product that helped keep websites online. So we protect they protected large e-commerce and financial institutions from things like hackers or maybe even other hostile nation states from taking them off the internet. So ran engineering there for about 3 years or so. We were then acquired by a company called Akamai and ran the network security product team at Akamai then for about 6 years or so. Left there a little after COVID. Then spent some time in the healthcare space, helping build software that was used by drug companies and medical device manufacturers to get their products to market faster. Did that for about 3 years. Did some consulting in some artificial intelligence, cybersecurity stuff around fraud detection for a company called Allure. Then via a mutual acquaintance, met up with Paige and have been here at Prostar for about the last year and a half or so.
So you and I were talking before we hopped on, and you had given me a number that was like a wow, right? A software company that you grew to about, I think you said 30 million in revenue.
Yep. Yes. Yep. Yep. So at Prolexic, we grown to around 30 million in revenue as just before we were acquired by Akamai.
And what was the company acquired for by Akamai?
It was around 400 million.
That's a big number, man.
It was a big number for sure.
So Akamai is no small slouch. I mean, that's a pretty big company, huh?
Yeah, Akamai's big. They're a content delivery and security company. I want to say probably around 5 billion in revenue today. From a technical perspective, I believe about 30 to 35% of all internet traffic routes through their platform at any given point in time.
Okay, and how big was your team at Akamai after 6 years?
It was around 150 or so at Akamai.
Okay, so I would say you're pretty skilled in what it is you do.
Yeah, sure. You could say that, I guess.
All right, so what attracted you to Prostar? Hey there, folks. I want to tell you about a new app that I am very excited about. If you want to up your investing game with Wall Street wisdom, stay informed, save time, and gain an edge, then you're going to want to check out this app, StockPick. You can discover pro tips from top investors and expert curated financial news, all in quick video short form clips. I've been using this app and I got to tell you, I love it. I am extremely impressed with the quality of the content. It keeps me informed, and I have to tell you, I've used all kinds of comparable services out there. This one is priced at $79 US. It is a steal of a deal. And right now, on top of that, you can get an additional 25% off. I'm telling you, folks, I think you're going to love this app. Go to the description of this video and find the link. Make sure you use my code to get that 25% off.
So, I think looking at the industries that Prostar serves, there's a huge need for technical modernization and innovation. A lot of how the horizontal construction in the world happens is using sort of a conglomerate of tools that have been kind of, maybe I'll say, duct taped and popsicle sticked together over the last, say, 25 to 30 years, and it's getting to a point where it's untenable, and sort of some of the big advancements that have been made in software and in hardware have been huge in the last, say, even 10 or so years, that like is ripe for it to be transformative to this market also. And I think Prostar is kind of greatly positioned with the current product offering we have to be kind of the center of that, right? So there's a couple of things going on. A lot of these companies spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money on doing conversions of data that's collected out in the field. So they're using products like AutoCAD or Bentley MicroStation, or even things like Esri and GIS systems, in some cases to be stores of the data, but in a lot of cases to convert between formats that are coming in from the field and then into new formats that need to be distributed out to, whether it's the municipalities they're working with, or to their other engineering groups. With Pointman, we can act as this Rosetta Stone, if you will, right? Where we've got all the integration to all of these different devices that are typically used in the field, and like none of them work the same way, right? They all have their kind of own proprietary implementations of the protocols, all have a lot of nuance and like little quirks in how to collect the data from them. We've abstracted all of that and sort of collected the data and we're able to normalize it, right? And so then we can provide the output without having to have a GIS team or without having to have a CAD design team work through and massage it. You can go into PointMan and collect the data out in the field, have somebody in your back office pretty quickly bring up our cloud interface and just export the data you need in the format that is needed by your downstream partner.
So that in other words, you simplify the entire process.
Absolutely,
No
yes.
matter
Absolutely, yes.
whose equipment you're using, right? Uh, and you're doing that in real time. So I mean, it's like seconds, right?
It is effectively instant, yes.
Yeah. So what I think.
And it can be instant from multiple locations at once, right? You can have multiple crews on the same job. You can have multiple crews across multiple jobs, and those data streams are flowing into our platform, and we can push them out to whatever you need to real time. Like irregardless of geographically where they're located or the number of teams or people you have out in the field.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, when you identify a utility underground, now typically on a job site, you would have to get your engineer from your firm to go out to the field and visually inspect it and say, okay, yep, I saw it, and sign off on it. And then you have to have somebody from the city come out, visually inspect it and sign off on it, which can take weeks. I mean, yeah, especially with the city. I mean, they may not be able to be out there for a month because they've got all these other jobs, right? Your product, if I'm not mistaken, they could sign off on it from their desk.
Yes, correct.
Right. So that efficiency that the contractor, that's significant, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and right there's a huge amount of what we do is a trust relationship as well, right? Like that, we spend a lot of time and put a lot of energy into the data that we collect in our platform is accurate to what actually like exists out in the field, and then building that trust relationship back upstream with all those upstream partners to say like, hey, what we're saying that is here is actually what's there.
So, I mean, I look at the size of this industry and I look at how long we've been doing things the same way. I mean, and that really is the biggest challenge, is right, is that you have, and I've experienced this in so many different realms. It's not just the construction industry. It's, you know, human beings are, they hate change. I mean, they like to bitch about problems, but very few people actually like to go out and do anything about fixing the problems, right? And then even when you come up with a solution for a problem, getting people just to change what they do on a daily basis is very difficult, even if it would solve the problem that they're bitching about, right? So early adopters, you've got maybe 8 to 13% of the population are early adopters. In order for it to become a standard, you have to get to be between 70 and 80%. That's a big spread, right? So I look at this company and I look at Kiewit, which is, I think, the fourth largest general contractor on the planet. And they seem to be understanding the benefits of PointMan. And the adoption in the construction industry, which I think the last time I checked was second to last in terms of adopting technology as an industry, right? I think that has to change in a significant and meaningful way. And there are signs, and you kind of indicated it before we started recording, is that there are indications that the adoption of PointMan is starting to accelerate.
Yep. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Adoption in any new industry of something new, always what I would say is it always tends to be slow until it isn't. And we've been marching now for the last couple of years on like, hey, we're working our way through those early adopters, and I think there's definitely been a change recently on that regard where the amount of interest we're seeing is beginning to increase at a much faster rate. The amount of folks say reaching out to us asking for information is definitely accelerating, and we're getting to the point where it's, hey, there's a lot of folks interested in talking to us, but much more than it is having to push out and like make ourselves known to everybody who's in the space.
So how long have you been there now, Lewis?
I started in August of last year, so that's about probably what, like maybe 18 months now, 16 months.
And what, since you come on board, what have you changed within the software itself?
So a couple of things that we've done. One is managed we did a bunch of work on cost efficiency, right? So I think in any software startup there's a couple of stages, right? Like initially early on it's very much you have to build things, and so as you're building something for the first time it tends to be a like tad bit wasteful. And so I think early on, the first maybe 6 months I was here, I spent a lot of time ensuring costs were under control, as well as they stand today, but as well as we keep on growing, right? So that when we get to a point where we're scaling and we're doubling in size or tripling in size or quadrupling the number of users on the platform, that our costs aren't also quadrupling in expense, right? Like what we want is a logarithmic curve of customer growth with the linear growth of the actual spend. And so there was quite a bit of time we spent early on getting us to be into that space. And then I think the other big program that we've put in place in the last year is really about customer feedback, right? Like talking to the customers we have out in the field using it. You had mentioned Kiwit, right? Like we talk to customers like that very frequently, listen to their feedback, and we've really got a process in place now around our roadmap for the product that says, hey, we're not just going to build what we think is right. We're going to go out and we're going to talk to our customers, and we're going to build what they think is important, right? This has led to things like some enterprise security stuff, things like the ability to do single sign-on with other internal systems to like streamline the IT procurement process of getting Prostar in place. That was kind of like a big hurdle for us. Things like the ability to support the exporting of data into CAD formats rather than just into sort of GIS style formats, which is the only thing we had a year ago. And then the other big one is integration into the broader ecosystem of software products that they have. So we have the ability to export shape files, and that makes things like Esli really easy. But there's also some newer technologies, things like WMTS as a standard, and we've like built support for that. So if they're using, let's say, drones or satellite imagery to get overhead views or more detailed views than what's available on the internet of their construction sites, we have the ability to integrate with those now as well, right? So if you've got, if you're building something new and the satellite imagery that say Google gets or Apple gets is 6 months old or 9 months old or whatever that is. So if you're flying aircraft or drones or having satellite passes done to get updates, we've got the ability now to sort of use that as an underlay, right, of the Prostar product platform.
So now, do you see a path where, do you ever see the technology stagnating, or do you see opportunities to continue to build off of this?
Yeah, no, I think honestly we've just scratched the surface. The big need here is in the like data collection space, and I think we've got ourselves to a point where we're in a great position there now in terms of the ability to, as I mentioned, collect the data from essentially every piece of hardware that's out in the field being used by construction companies. The other thing I should mention is, as we've grown, we're getting into this interesting position where the hardware manufacturers, in a lot of cases, are reaching out to us under NDA ahead of their product launches, saying, "Hey, when we launch this new piece of hardware, we want to have point man support at the launch, right? On day one of somebody being able to buy this new locator or this new GPS, we need point man support day one. And so like building those relationships have been huge. And then so we can collect the data, we can normalize it into sort of one consistent format, irregardless of what the process is and what the hardware that's being used out in the field is in. And now that we have that, I think we talked about the main use case today is pushing that upstream to customers, but there's a lot of opportunity in having a data set like that, right? So things like artificial intelligence training data sets looking very similar to what we've built. And as those sorts of technologies become more prevalent in the future in the space, we're going to be in a great position to sort of help accelerate and like provide real value to our customers and getting those sorts of systems up to speed as quickly as possible.
So artificial intelligence is something you're very involved with for many years. I mean, this
Yeah,
isn't,
it has been. Yep.
it's not a new thing for you, right? It's
No,
kind
no, not at all.
of, which should be exciting for shareholders to know about
Yeah.
you, right? Because you're definitely, I would say you're looking in that direction, right?
Yes, we absolutely are. We've absolutely created a foundation to build some like very some very exciting artificial intelligence products on top of in the future.
You gave me a couple of examples of where things could be, and it may be 5 years down the road, or maybe 10 years down the road. But you started talking about equipment makers and not geospatial equipment makers. You started talking about guys that are building backhoes and heavy equipment that is used out on the job site that actually could know where a pipe is underground and
Yep.
would shut down. I mean, it would not allow even if the operator is saying dig deeper, the backhoe would know, no, there's a pipe right below there, and not allow the operator to dig deeper.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's convergence coming there for sure. And that's just the first step, right? Like the first step is, create some guardrails around the existing equipment that's out there in the field. But then I think 5 to 10 years from now, there's going to be some major advances in the physical side of artificial intelligence, right? Tesla the other day just did a really, really fun demo of Optimus, right? It was walking around and serving drinks. And you can just imagine all of the sort of opportunity that's going to exist with things like that in the future as those platforms get more and more advanced, right? Like it's great to be able to put a robot into dangerous situations rather than having like having to put people into those situations, right? And so sometimes it's like, hey, that looks like a person. In other times it's like, well, even today, like, a lot of farming, right? There's a lot of farming that's done where like, the combine goes out there and there's no driver in there, right? It's just out and we can do that stuff today in controlled environments like farms, right? What I think we're going to see in the next 10 years is the ability to do those things on construction sites, on freeways, for example, with open lanes of traffic next to them, right? And once that starts to happen, we're working hard behind the scenes for that day where like we are going to have the data of here's what exists so that when that hardware arrives, we've got the data set to hand to it to say, here's exactly what's going on. Here's exactly what the world around you that you need to operate in looks like.
This is big thinking, big thinking, right? I mean, I'm glad you brought up Elon Musk. I mean, do you think there's any single human being that has had more of an impact on the planet than that man right there?
It's definitely been a like wow, yeah, I think of this generation he's done an exceptional job of taking, say, removing complacency from places. We were talking about things like Tesla and SpaceX, right? And like, it used to cost 150 or 200 million dollars to launch a rocket, and SpaceX can do it for like less than 50 today, right? Like that's just insane amounts of efficiency in the span of a decade. And I think Tesla is a similar story, right? In that, hey, what Tesla is actually Tesla's pulling along the likes of Ford and General Motors and even, Mercedes-Benz and BMW and Toyota into a new age by like just existing essentially.
I actually watched a special on Elon Musk yesterday, because I'm obsessed with the guy. I'm obsessed with what he has, just his whole history. I mean, the guy did not have a great upbringing. He had a kind of a rough childhood,
Yep.
but for some reason he loves humanity, and he loves to do right by humanity. And it was actually the number for SpaceX. The number was he does it for 60 million. It used to cost through NASA 2 billion per launch. So he can essentially do 22 times what for the same cost of what it took one, right, launch. The numbers are staggering. If you look at, and he's obsessed with efficiencies. I mean, he is really obsessed with that. And his biggest thing is he just wants to get to Mars, man.
Yep.
he
Yep.
wants to colonize another planet. That's his driver, right?
Yep.
But I mean, I could see Point Man at some point. Look, if we do colonize another planet, I could see Point Man being out there on Mars, right? If we're going to
Yep.
start
Yep.
the
Absolutely.
ground, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, maybe the tech. I mean, look, construction in general is slow to adopt tech, but I think they're going to be forced to because the workforce is shrinking for them, and they have to find efficiencies, right? I mean, that's a given. And then I look at the municipalities. We just had a mandate come out where we're going to be yanking all the lead pipe out of the ground across the entire United States, and that's got to be completed in 10 years. Well, if that's water pipe, or if that's pipe that is buried the deepest in the ground, typically, that means that over the top of that, we've laid fiber, cable, electric, gas, right? Finding those pipes, number one, is going to be a very, very big challenge. Then yanking them out of the ground without doing any damage to the stuff that's over the top of them is going to be another big challenge, right? And that is right up Point Man's alley, right? All the little municipalities that need to find their water pipes for the EPA. I mean, how do they do that, right? With a system that isn't going to break the bank, like a little municipality is they're not going to be able to afford a $200,000 system, right? But they can certainly afford Point Man.
Yep. And it's not only you have to do it. They because of kind of how a lot of this operates, they have to do it every time every time they need to touch that pipe. It's like there was no carryover from last time. So it's the same process from that new every single time, right? And so one, yes, we can do it cheaper, but then two, we only have to do it once, right? And then we store it, and then it's always available for them to use every time they ever wanted to get in the future.
Which is crazy that we are still putting stuff in the ground today on new
Yep.
job sites, and we are not documenting precisely
There
what
it is.
things
Yes.
are going in the ground, right?
Yep.
Which is almost, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me because this is a digital age, and yet we've got 35 million miles worth of underground utilities that we do not know precisely where they are.
Right.
And if you're going to do anything above ground, you need to know what's going on below ground.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
that's the facts, right? And it's costing us more and more every year for accidental strikes, over 500,000 a year, and we're not. They shouldn't happen. There's no reason for them to happen because the technology does exist to start building out that map of the entire country of precisely where our assets are sitting, right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
And I would say Prostar is at the front end of that, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
This is not just a United States problem. This is a global problem.
Yeah, right.
from a
Yeah,
technology.
every country every companies in every part of the world in every country have this issue.
So let me ask you about that portion of it, the international portion. Um, have you made that process simpler since you came on?
Yeah, I mean, so we've definitely done some work to ensure we are meeting all the standards that exist in sort of all the different I'll say municipalities and jurisdictions that like exist around the world.
And you also helped create or make it more efficient, I think, the online store, right? I mean, you don't technically have to, you don't have to talk to somebody from Point Man. You can go online to the
Yep,
online store and download the app and you're
yep,
right.
yep, absolutely correct. Yes.
And you made that process very seamless.
Yes. Yeah. No, yeah. We've, that was one of the things, I think there's an enterprise part of my business or on the business here that we've been focused on. That's very much, I'd say, like a high touch sales or not even high touch, but there's a sales department that goes with selling into larger organizations. There's another end of the market that tends to be more SMB style. This is things like survey companies and locators and whatnot, where like, they're looking for a couple of licenses, very quickly. And like that's really the sort of target market for our store, right? You can go online, go to the Apple App Store or Google Play Store, grab Pointman, get to our store, buy the number of licenses you like need and be, and be up and running in a matter of minutes.
Right. I, I mean, that to me, that is so awesome, right? Uh, I, I'm glad you came on, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks. Like this has been a great this has been a great conversation for sure.
All right. So look, is there anything that you would like people to know about Point Man and ProStar before we end this conversation?
I could keep talking forever. I'm super excited about it. I think one of the, I think we had mentioned sort of the, the early adopter curve into mainstream, and I think we are, I've climbed that hill a number of times in my career, and where I sit now and the signals that I have are, the top of that mountain before it gets easy is always cloudy and covered in fog, and I think we're definitely in that at the moment. But I think all the signs here are absolutely pointing towards we are starting to really see a change in thinking around adoption of technology within the space, and I think it's going to happen very soon.
Yeah, you made a point to me when we were talking about your previous employment, uh, where I think you said it took, what was
Yeah,
it?
no, one of the companies I like work for, I won't go into too many of the details, but their first big customer took them 11 years to get. Their second big customer took like 3 years to get. And then they had effectively the entire industry on their platform in like 18 months after the second customer.
Which is a mind-blowing thing, right? But
Yeah.
I can absolutely see it, what you're saying, because, and that's always what I've felt with Point Man, because there are so many different areas that can literally make Point Man a mandated item. I mean, Colorado made it state law, right? I don't think it would take very many more Department of Transportation signings or some really significant engineering and construction firms for then the industry to recognize, look, these are some major players that are now using this. I'm not going to screw up and be left behind, right? I mean, you're either going to get on board or you're going to get ran over.
Yeah,
Is kind of how I see it, right?
absolutely.
And the need for, and this goes back to my whole philosophy of investing, is there is a massive need for this. This is not a little problem. This is a big, costly, global problem. And maybe the industry is doing everything in their power to not have to make the change, because it is a change in processes. It is something that you have to commit to. that you have to be trained on, that you have to learn, and then get your people to learn. It's not an easy switch. It's probably easier than people think it is. Would you say that that is maybe true? Is it?
Absolutely, it is. Yes, change could always be scary, and but I think the evidence we have from everyone that we've worked with is that it's almost never as bad as they expect it to be.
Right. So once people start to realize that, then I think the adoption curve picks up. But I'm seeing some big names. I mean, PCL, that's not a little company. That's a big company. Stake Center, that's another big
Yep.
player, right? I mean, these are big companies that have decided to move in this direction, and it's still early. I don't know who the who the company will be that makes the light bulb go on, but I think it's getting closer, right? And then it's just
100%.
going to be a snowball.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. All right, Lewis. I love talking to you, man. Keep doing great things over there at Point Man. Maybe in when we have something or a new product or new twist, maybe we can have you back and just do a real quick follow up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would like love to talk again for sure.
Okay, hold on one second, man. I'm gonna shut this down. Hold on a second. Thank you for tuning in to another interview here at Alpha Wolf Capital. For those that you haven't figured this out, this one's personal for me, and I feel as though it is an underappreciated story that at some point is going to be recognized, and they deserve every bit of that recognition. Today we had Louis Succi from Prostar, ticker symbol MAPPF. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. The last thing that's going to be on the screen here is this damage prevention saves lives and money. And all I would ask is that you really take that into consideration when you're doing your due diligence on Prostar.